This is extremely important. The hatred, not the let's coexist and hey, we'd like you to move on. This is not a Gandhi movement. The hatred. And we saw it when Christine Anandpour was interviewing the Egyptian protesters. And the guy said back to her, if you remember, I hate you. I hate America. Watch.
You want us to go?
Yes, I want you to go from here.
Why?
Because we are hate you. We hate American.
You hate us?
Yes, I hate you and I hate you.
Why do you hate us?
You are not good person. Go to any place more, please. Go to any place more. You are not with us.
Okay.
You are not with us.
Okay.
Okay, remember this happened to Anderson Cooper as well. It happened to the staff at Fox. They were in danger. This isn't some loon off the street. They really do actually hate us. And don't be mistaken, they don't hate us for our wealth. They don't hate us for our lifestyle. These are religious extremists, far beyond what we have ever known in our lifetime. To survive, we cannot think like Westerners. We have to think like those in the Middle East. We cannot listen to people telling us to ignore it. These are the same ones that are excusing the extremism. Oh, well, they don't mean that. Oh, they're just like us. Why do you hate them so much? I don't. I can coexist with anyone that doesn't wish to kill me. The press all but ignored Lara Logan from CBS. I want to play her words again because she was there in Tahrir Square when the world was praising this glorious revolution and calling it a peaceful demonstration. She was there. She knows the truth and she knows the hatred.
They were trying to tear off chunks of my scalp. They had my head in different directions.
Pulling at your hair.
Oh yeah, and not trying to pull out my hair, holding big wads of it, literally trying to tear my scalp off my skull. And I thought, when I thought I'm going to die here, and my next thought was, I can't believe I just let them kill me.
They were trying to kill her while they were chanting, Jew, Jew, Jew. They believe we're trying to humiliate the Muslim world and fight against Islam. No, we are not, unless your definition of Islam is defined by extremists. There are Muslims here in America who are trying to fight this evil, and they are begging us to stop being politically correct. These people from Hizbut Tahrir believe that capitalism requires an inhuman poison of nationalism. They blame America for all of the wars in the last 200 plus years. The United States of America, in its approximately 240 years of life, has fought more than 235 wars up to the current Iraq and Afghanistan war. These wars killed millions and millions of human lives. Most of their death is because they were unfortunate in living during the periods of man-made rules. All of these wars were a direct result of implementing capitalist concept of nationalism. You remember that mandatory jihad? Guess who's going to be against it? The great Satan, the United States of America. That may not scare you now, because we know we can defeat any single nation militarily. But what about when the Islamic world is unified in a caliphate? What will we possibly be up against then? The unified Islamic world under Islamic Khalifa state has, quote, 72.12% of the world's oil reserve and produces almost 50% of the daily production of the entire world. We have the strategic oil reserves here in America. They hold 727 million barrels, the strategic oil reserves. We'll just use that if there's a problem. They are designed to fuel our military in case there's a stoppage of oil and flow from the Middle East. You know how long it would fuel just our military? 34 days. Only a suicidal people don't have a backup plan for serious disruption when that area of the world that holds 72% of the world's reserves is in revolution. That area of the world has more than 61% of the world's gas reserves, 22.6% of the uranium reserves, and has substantial iron ore reserves. More resources that we will lack because we will not prepare. Here's one more disturbing resource they hold. It has the second largest dollar reserve of around $1.65 trillion. It is the fourth largest economy in the world, with $7.74 trillion in GDP. Let me ask you this. If the Middle East decided to work together and to dump the dollar, do you think that it would not be done in one afternoon? The United Caliphate, the Islamic Khalifa, will control the major geopolitically important strategic locations of the world in sea, in land, and in air routes. It will enjoy the monopoly of these strategic assets and bring countries like China, Germany, and Japan under its direct influence. That's a quote from the conference. But did you notice that America was not in that equation anywhere? Where do you think we are? We are a disease, and we will have been eradicated. Quote, indeed, Islam is the only cure to the disease that we witness due to the implementation of criminal and bankrupt ideology of capitalism. If you replace the word Islam with just the word socialism, indeed, socialism is the only cure to the disease that we witness due to the implementation of criminal and bankrupt ideology of capitalism. That's a phrase that could have been spoken by one of the revolutionaries on Wall Street this afternoon here in New York. By the way, social justice is huge in the Islamic world. Wake up. What I told you in January, radicals, socialists, communists, and Muslim extremists are working together, is here. And it is time to stand in peace and shoulder to shoulder.
Back in 2008, I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, of all places, the heart of the heartland, to investigate a story, a Pakistani Muslim immigrant, guy by the name of Jamal Mifta, moderate guy, great guy, loves America. He wrote an op-ed in his local Tulsa newspaper condemning al-Qaeda, saying al-Qaeda distorts Islam. Well, the next day he went to his mosque, which is the largest mosque in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was confronted physically by the mosque's leadership, threatened with physical violence, shoved around, and kicked out of the mosque. This is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, not Cairo.
I will tell you that I was in, I think it was in Tulsa, and I was going to a show, and this was before I was well known, but I had been very outspoken on President Ahmadinejad. And I got into this cab, and he was a Muslim man, and I said, so what do you think about Ahmadinejad? And he started railing and just going off and saying all kinds of this man of hate, etc., etc. And I realized that it was a setup for the real part about Ahmadinejad. He was talking about Bush, and he said the real savior will be President Ahmadinejad from Iran. He's a good man, and people just don't know. Norman, Oklahoma, is a big hotbed, and you wouldn't expect it to be here, but yet no one is talking about it. Yeah. Are we headed towards an event? Do you fear? I mean, because I don't. Were they here? The radicals like they are now? Were they here in 2001?
Yes, they were. After 9/11, the scrutiny was on them all of a sudden. In the 1990s, there are tapes, Glenn. I used to work for a guy named Steve Emerson. He was kind of the Paul Revere on this.
Great. He wanted to actually, he was going to be on the show. He is an amazing man. He is. But he's in having a hernia, I think, taken care of today.
Yeah, he's a patriot, and I learned a lot under him. And he had just volumes and volumes of videotapes from the 1990s, 1980s in Kansas City, Missouri, places you would never expect in the heartland of people calling for death to America, jihad, Jews are monkeys and pigs, very openly. Now, after 9/11, they became a lot more savvy. They know they're being watched. The Islamists in this country know they're being watched. But I think for Hizb ut-Tahrir America to emerge in 2009, this group, Glenn, has been here for 20 years. Hizb ut-Tahrir America has been active on U.S. soil for 20 years. Now, finally, they rear their heads in 2009 for the first time. Why? And this might sound conspiratorial, but I believe that when President Obama came into office, that was a signal. Hey, this guy is not going to apply the pressure to us. He has anti-Israel, pro-Islamic policies. And I have to tell you, if you want a clearer signal, April 2009, he bows to the king of Saudi Arabia. Do you think that didn't send a signal to radicals?
I think the signal, I mean, I think it's a safe thing to say that the president sent a clear signal to the Middle East and to radicals in this country when he said rise up, when he supported the radical revolution that and said that Muslim Brotherhood is not, they're not a group of bad guys. That was a signal, I think, that move on, we're not going to be looking around here, we're not going to be looking around.
They regard us that 9/11 worked. That's how they look at it. 9/11 worked because America softened. The psychological impact on the American people after 9/11, at the beginning they were, of course, traumatized, but this trauma, I think, has caused us to accept things that we wouldn't accept otherwise. These kinds of groups, a lot of people tell me, but they are such a minority in America. Why are you worried? The thing is, everything starts small. All these Islamist groups that we regard as nothing in America are removing governments in the Middle East, are causing riots, are causing subversion constantly, are scaring women to walk in the streets without their burqas. These groups have a long impact, not only on the regular person on the street, but on governments. President Sadat, when he signed the peace treaty with Israel, he told his confidants, I know I am violating Islamic law, and the Islamists are not going to, they are going to kill me. I know I'm signing my death warrant. And that was true. Just a few months later, he was killed, he was assassinated. And a lot of people don't understand why Sadat was assassinated. He was assassinated because under Sharia, the Muslim head of state, the Khalifa, his #1 duty is to preserve the Islamic State, never make peace with non-Muslims, never make peace with the Jews. And the minute you make true peace with the Jews, you have violated your job as a Khalifa in the Caliphate, and you must be killed.
What happens to Israel as this proceeds?
Well, Israel is first in the crosshairs. Israel is the little Satan. Israel is obviously in the region. It needs to be blotted out. It's a historical mistake. It needs to be blotted out from the record of Islam. So Israel is first. But the great Satan, the ultimate prize, is us. America is the ultimate prize. People need to understand Israel, canary in the coal mine, as you've said.
People don't understand that, I mean, in every way, they dismiss people and say, oh, it's no big deal. They dismiss them every single time.